Well, guys, this is a video that I have been trying to make for the longest time. I rediscovered some old vintage construction video of Disneyland. They had unarchived it, or found it, I should say. I think it was Tony Baxter and some guys found this footage, and it's footage of the actual construction of Disneyland. A lot of it time lapse type stuff, stuff that some things I had never seen before, and this is one of my favorite things to do, is to look at old footage like this and then try to draw parallels between then and now. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little commentary on this video coming up right now. All right, that looks like the model. Naturally, I mean. Okay, so this is how Anaheim used to look in 1955, if you can believe that. This isn't quite Harbor Boulevard. I'm not sure what street they are. Okay, I think that was Harbor Boulevard right there, because they are now on the proper construction site. And there's Walt. Some of you will recognize a lot of the footage that you've seen, because it's been sampled over the years many times. But this is Walt and I forget who was just in that shot. Look at that. Look at that. This is one of my favorite things. He's talking about the plan, and then he does this beautiful flourish. Oh, we got to go back and look at that again. The flourish for me is emblematic of like pride. How good he felt. He was confident, and he was really excited, and about what they were about to undertake. And remember, this is footage from before the park had opened. He had no idea if this was going to be a success yet, but he was damn confident. And that little flourish, to me, is very symbolic of his confidence, and it makes me happy to see that. So here we are on site. That's Marvin Davis, who we saw earlier, walking up, and that's Joe Fowler on his right. Joe Fowler of Fowler's Harbor. I don't know where they're at exactly, but I want to think that this is maybe Jungle Cruise, the way that the trench that they're looking at. I'm thinking Jungle Cruise maybe. And there's Roy, who has no idea what Walt's plans are. He's just like, all right, I guess if you think it's going to work, you know. Like that hat, though. Okay, all right, we're going to take a minute. This is the scene I'm talking about. You guys have all seen Walt, do this thing right here that he's doing, walking stuff off, trying to imagine where his park will be. What I want to do is I'm trying to figure out where this is on property, and I've been having the hardest time because I can't find any landmarks. Obviously there's the hedges. He's walking through a pair of hedges. But when you look at, we're going to see some overhead footage later, I cannot find anywhere a logical place where hedges, there's trees, lots of trees, but no hedges where the foliage, the leaves meet the ground. Everything else is just trees. The only thing I can think of again is maybe Jungle Cruise. So it's not likely that I'm ever going to find, because I want to stand. I want to pace that off just like Walt did. I want to stand where he did. But I don't think that's, I just can't do it. So this is where most of this footage that we're going to see is coming from, is these towers. They built these things for this very purpose, to get footage of them building the park. And that's Walt. Dude was, what, 50-something when he climbed those? Way to go, Walt. I mean, he was just into it. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is aerial footage, right? They do a full 360 of the whole thing, and I can't really find anywhere where, there's hedges, there's trees, but I don't see hedges. I want to know where he was. The only thing I think of is, because they barely showed it, was Jungle Cruise. There's a lot of foliage there in Jungle Cruise, so maybe that was it. We're flying through. This is coming directly to the main entrance. The berms haven't been fully developed yet. That's the Opera House on the right. You can see the definition of Main Street a little bit, where they're starting to work on the foundations for the Main Street buildings. Jungle Cruise, obviously, on your left as we approach the hub. in the future site of Sleeping Beauty Castle. There's the camera tower that Walt was walking up. All right, Main Street, camera 1. So now this camera is the tower that we saw walk up. Walt climb up, I should say, looking back down Main Street towards the Disneyland Railroad. And you can see them building the Opera House up there in the top left. Same view, that's kind of clearing space there for the Main Street. And there's Opera House in the corner again. Wow. Busy, busy, busy. Okay, camera change somewhere in the Disneyland parking lot, City Hall, and they're starting to build the Disneyland Railroad. Amazingly, that train depot that they're building right now, that is 4 months prior to opening. How is that even possible? I just can't imagine 4 months before opening they finished this. And it looks great. It looks great. Whew. It's so impressive. So this probably is just, this is the whole 4 months that we're looking at, maybe. I'm not sure. Fixed position here. They'll take this probably right up until opening day. Wow. Yeah, you're starting to see a little bit of the train track. They're working on that part of it there, it looks like. Four months. You know, that's the thing, is that these weren't built. It's a living set, right? It's a living movie set is what they built. They didn't build a building. They built a movie set, but in 3 dimensions. Those trees there are just planted there. That's pretty much right where they're going to wind up. When we see here in a little bit, I think, you're going to see the trees just sort of find root right about that area. Now they're starting to begin to build. Oh, there goes the tree moving. Right, they're starting to build the Floral Mickey area right there, because they had to build up the dirt there to create that perspective. And here we go. They're starting to put that all together now. And there you see the tree has landed. There's the circular outline for Floral Mickey. I wonder what that construction is right there. I don't. Is that? What is that? Maybe that's just an observation point, because I don't think that doesn't last. That doesn't stay there. Okay, train station is almost done. Putting in the final. It looks like they're starting to lay down the track a little bit. Concrete has been poured. Oh, trees are there. That's right where you meet. That tree is right where you can meet Snow White and Cinderella today. Well, if you could, today at the Disneyland. That's where that tree is, right there. Just stop for a minute as we watch these guys hang the Disneyland sign on the Main Street station as it faces the main entrance. I wonder if they understood what they were doing that moment, because for me, that I don't know what it is whenever I ride the train, that I always look at that sign. It's almost like, you know how the college football teams they tap the sign as they come out of the tunnel and go run out into the field. You've seen them do that. They tap the sign. For me, it's different. I can't tap the sign, but whenever I ride the train, I always observe that sign and the population thing, and it makes me reflect on the history of Disneyland and the Disneyland Railroad. And I wonder if those guys were able to comprehend what part they were playing, what role they had in building one of the most famous places, one of the most famous things in history, in the world. Or was it just a job for them? Was it just a gig, oh, honey, I was, I built the train thing at someplace in Anaheim. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what he's doing. This place is stupid. What was their mindset? What were these construction guys' mindset? And I see these guys building that, and I just want to be there. I want to be there now. I want to be in their shoes, putting that sign up and being able to know what I know now and observing that. It blows my mind. It really does. They're installing history right there. There's Floral Mickey, starting to take shape. Look, they're building one of the gazebos right there. Where are they going to put that? That doesn't go anywhere near the main entrance. Not even back then. Not that I can recall or have heard of. Ooh, it's raining. Maybe it is. Look at that. It looks like they're building. It looks like it's permanent. Ooh, a train test. Okay, camera 2. We won't go back on that. Okay, so this new camera angle, we've gone back in time yet. You can tell because they haven't finished the Disneyland Railroad there. There's the tunnel being built. Note also the current state of the Main Street Opera House. We're going to get into that in a minute, but because there's a lot of history with the Opera House that, I don't know, kind of come to a new understanding of its role. But note that because it was there and they used it as a, lumberyard, basically, a build site. Look at all that dirt. That dirt, I think, that's what gets wind up being put over to the Floral Mickey. Little up close on Main Street. That's the store. I can never remember the name of that store. How many times have I done this? That's the store opposite of Emporium. Okay. Look. Okay, let me go back. Watch the Opera House. Watch what happens to the Opera House. I'm going to back it up to the beginning. This is its state that we said, observe this state it's in right now, and then watch what happens. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? What's happening? What's happening is they are disassembling the Opera House. They are unbuilding it. So I'll pause here. This is I don't know, I don't want to call it a mistake, but a misunderstanding of history. It is often said, and I've said it myself in videos in the past, that the Opera House was the first building that they've built. People say that a lot, and it was used as a build site. That's where they cut the lumber for all the buildings that are built in Disneyland, basically, at that time. So they built the Opera House first, so that they could have, a lumberyard, basically. And then they would assemble a lot of it and then move it out and put it and install it where it belonged in the park. And so historians or people who talk about the history of the park will often say Main Street Opera House was the first place built. But it's not, at least not the Opera House that we know today, because that site is completely leveled and gone down to the foundation. It was unbuilt. And this is something that I noticed that they did something similar at Galaxy's Edge when we watched them build that. There was things that they built that they got unbuilt, and they were used just as staging areas. So I don't know what technically would be the first thing built, but it wasn't the Opera House. I don't know how to determine that. Maybe it was. I think it was City Hall, I guess, or maybe the Disneyland Railroad. I'm not sure, or the train station. I mean, but you'll see here in a minute. Everything is gone down to the foundation, and they build it back up again. Right. That gazebo, by the way, is this. It wound up being the plaza next to the castle where they did the swing dancing, and then it was eventually moved to New Orleans Square, which I don't know if we'll see that here. We may see it in another video we look at, but it wound up being on New Orleans Square. I can't explain where it is now, but in between Pirates and Haunted Mansion, right on the rivers of America. So we've gone back in time again to look at the construction of City Hall and the fire department and Walt's apartment. People often talk about those eucalyptus trees in the back there. Those were originals and they're still there today. Those are one of the few trees that wound up remaining at the site, and they needed those because the Jungle Cruise was going to be there and they needed a windbreak. Moving right along, a lot of dirt, man. It's a lot of dirt. Look at that. You can go sit on that and look at that today, right there, just the way it is. Hasn't changed. That's going to be the concrete, and they're going to fill it with it's a planter for landscaping. And those are the steps that they're building right there up to the train station. God, it looks hasn't changed a bit. Okay, there's the gazebo again. They're putting it in the middle. That's where they were going to have it. That actually existed right there in the middle of town square. And then it blocked the view of Main Street, and now it's gone. They put it up there to the left of Sleeping Beauty Castle. And then eventually, like I said, out into New Orleans Square. Wow. Look at that. It's weird. It's such an unobstructed view of the backside of Main Street and into Tomorrowland backstage. Okay, Main Street, looking overhead, Main Street. Pretty much done, pretty much built. The Crystal Arcade, Jungle Cruise in the background over there on the other side of the buildings. And then Town Square. I'm guessing, again, this is something like a few months before opening. Now look at what they're doing here. They're putting down just plain concrete, like colored concrete, not pavers like we see today, paving stones, but just plain concrete. Notice no landscaping there. Oh, okay, now they put the landscaping in with the flagpole. Just grass. Okay, I'm going to pause right here because I want you guys to notice something. This is very close to opening day. If not, I mean, we're talking days maybe. What do you see about Town Square right now that catches your eye? Is there anything that catches your eye other than the fact that the trees haven't fully developed? There's a little less, landscaping being done. But is there anything that catches your eye? Because what is fascinating here, if you look at the grass areas, no fences, no chains, nothing to keep guests from walking on the grass, because they didn't keep guests from walking on the grass back then. And you'll see, it was kind of like this at the around the castle as well. There was lots of grassy areas where you could just sit. You could literally sit on that grass underneath that tree if you wanted to. Blows my mind. I mean, they learned that lesson very quickly, though, I'm sure. That given the opportunity, guests are going to walk all over your glass unless you tell them not to. Given the opportunity, they will definitely do it. Because that's just the way, we are, I suppose. But they didn't know that up front, and they had to learn that the hard way, I'm sure. But there you go. The park is open, and you could walk all over that grass. You could see people sitting underneath those trees. Okay, Tomorrowland. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. I mean, you heard the stories, right? Tomorrowland was not ready when the park opened. But what's going to blow your mind is that this is 2 months. 2 months before the park opened. Right? 2 months. And what you're seeing here, I can't even visualize this today. I keep thinking, okay, that's the where they built Space Mountain, right? No, Space Mountain is somewhere else completely, or actually it's in front of it. They built Space Mountain in the space in front of those two San Onofre looking, whatever those things are, the domes. You know what I'm talking about, the domes in San Onofre? they built it in front where the stage is and everything. And then this, okay, come on, come on. This was a theater where you know, a large theater where bands could play. I think, right? Halleck's and all them, or no, Halleck's played at the what do you call it, Tomorrowland. And then this, obviously, they're bringing in the rocket ship, which there's one today, but it's just a scale model of this one. This thing was enormous. It looked like an actual rocket to the moon. Now look at the placement. That is pretty much where the other one is today, I think, or close to it anyway. So there's the theater, and then behind that are those two San Onofre domes. It's so hard for me to visualize this today, like where things are, because it doesn't look like this anymore at all. This is just days. This is like just days before the park opened. I cannot believe they pulled that off. I mean, nobody could go in there. You couldn't go in and ride anything. You couldn't even go in and shop. But the facades, the building, the structure was there. They just put some bunting up and made it look approachable, but you couldn't go in and do anything in there. Oh. So, what do you see missing here? Yeah, the Matterhorn. Autopia. Crazy. That's the monorail station right there. There's no monorail, but that's the station where it would be. And what don't you see here? There's no trees. There's no Matterhorn. Imagine. The Autopia Brigade. That is Walt Disney riding around on a bike. He would go from site to site on that bike. Makes sense. But that's such a Walt thing, right? That's such a Walt thing. And this is very near opening. Week or two before, I think. All right, where are we? This is, I believe, that's where the castle's going to be. Those guys are building the castle right there. Okay, so that's Fantasyland, left side, right side. Where that dirt is, that's going to be Sleeping Beauty Castle. And that dirt actually winds up being Holiday Hill, which eventually becomes Matterhorn Mountain. Right there on the ground is actually the turret that's going to wind up being, see, there they are, well, further developed, but turrets that they're going to install on top. One of these days I want to tell a story in detail about how Sleeping Beauty Castle took the shape that it was, or became, because that's not how they initially designed the castle. Wow. Now they're putting the topper on the turret there. And I think that's supposed to be a church. In this area right here, there's actually a church built into the castle. It's one of the rooms. Beautiful. What a magnificent job they did. There it is. Still the same again as it always has been. Just the color palette has changed from time to time, but the castle is today as it was then. Testing the drawbridge. Lots of paint and polish. and castle. Okay, so that is Captain Hook's pirate ship that became the Chicken of the Sea restaurant where you can get a tuna fish sandwich. And there's the carousel in its old position. Magnificent. That boat was magnificent. That's one. If I'm going to pause this because I want to go off. Sometimes I'm asked, what thing from the past would you most like to have in the present? And I mean, naturally, the number one thing that most people would say is the people mover. But this in Skull Rock, I don't remember ever going on that as a kid. I'm sure I've been to Disneyland, or I mean, I'm sure I went to Disneyland as a kid at the time when that was there. No doubt of that. But I don't remember ever going in there. I don't remember going through Skull Rock or looking at Skull Rock or that being a thing when I was at Disneyland. But this scene with Captain Hook's boat and Skull Rock and behind it with the water, just look at those images from back in the day. It's just beautiful. It would have been an amazing sight. This is built exactly where Dumbo is today. And people wonder, why? Why would they get rid of such a beautiful thing? And it's because it fell apart. It wasn't constructed very well, I guess, and they couldn't keep it up, both the boat and the Skull Rock, as far as I understand. So, because it seems like such a wonderful thing to have, and to replace it just with Dumbo, I mean, come on. And by the way, just over the boat is Storybook Land. You can see them kind of working on that, the Casey Jr. Storybook Land area. I don't think Skull Rock was built immediately or at the time of opening, so I don't think we're going to see it. But I'll put in some, or hopefully I did already, some pictures of how it looked. Wow. Smee! Well, they're putting a lot of time into that boat, man. It's taking forever to build it. And it's not even right because they still got to paint it, they got to paint it red and put the gold, whatever trim on there. Filigree? I don't know what they call that. This is a lot of boat time. My goodness. There, now it's a little red at least. And there it goes. And they still haven't put the gold trim on there, but that's closer to how it looks. I love that little boardwalk that you can walk out there to get into the boat as well. Wonderful. All right, where are we? Oh, that was Casey Jr., and then this is the carousel. Carousel was built initially right in front of Peter Pan. Can you imagine how tight that area is right now? But having said that, Peter Pan wasn't as big then as it was today. They moved the carousel up into where its current position to give more room, and then they built out Peter Pan. Yeah, see how close that is to the entrance there, or to through the castle. But right in between Snow White and Peter Pan. And there's Casey Jr. Was originally supposed to be kind of a roller coaster. Teacups. Look at that old school way of just lifting. So cool. Beautiful shot there. Thank you very much for that. Frontierland. All right, so that's the Rivers of America, unbuilt, no trees, no water. And then what you were looking at where those orange groves are essentially Star Wars land now. And that's the track for Mark Twain in Columbia. That's Fowler's Harbor right there in the corner. And then Tom Sawyer's Island on the right. And what they're building right here, if I'm not mistaken, is the Plantation House. That's the Mark Twain. Yeah, I think they're building the Plantation House, which is an interesting bit of history because so few people are even cognizant of that this thing was ever there. And it's got an interesting story, or at least part of it is interesting. But this was like I think it was a chicken restaurant, New Orleans themed food, I believe, before New Orleans Square was a thing. But this was a restaurant built right on the water, on the rivers of America, essentially where, I don't know, where the Tom Sawyer canoes, or the Tom Sawyer rafts dock today, right in front of where the Haunted Mansion would be. This is before Haunted Mansion. So, like, just push Haunted Mansion forward. And that's where that site would have been. Crazy that like nobody has any. Okay, I gotta pause because I want to talk a little bit about if you were to ask the layman visitor or the average visitor to Disneyland if that's what they see today. If you walk down the rivers of America, on that little pathway on the way to Critter Country or the Haunted Mansion, and you ask, is this how it's always looked? I mean, I would be willing to bet 9 out of 10. At least 9 out of 10 would say, yeah, this is the way it's always been. This is history. It's Disneyland. Nothing changes here. There was a big-ass friggin' restaurant right there on the water. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. Oh, by the way, before we continue, also, the facade of the New Orleans facing side of the restaurant, because it was double-sided, kind of like the way Jolly Holiday is, where there's Jolly Holiday on one side and Tropical Hideaway on the other, two different themes. This building was that way as well. There was kind of a, I don't know, well, it was a New Orleans themed, plantation themed side, and then the other side was, I don't know what you want to call it, Spanish, I guess, a Spanish influence. But the facade for the plantation side is remarkably similar to the interior facade of the plantation style restaurant for Club 33. You go into Club 33, get a water table, and then turn around, put your back to the Pirates of the Caribbean, and look at the restaurant from the inside. And what you see there is going to look just like, smaller in scale, but just like the facade for that restaurant. So they borrowed that New Orleans theming when they built Club 33. Where to next? Frontierland. Okay, where are we? I'm trying to get my bearings. I want to say that what they're building there is Rancho del Zocalo, and then what they're building there is probably Golden Horseshoe. And what they're doing down here in the bottom of the frame is something that doesn't exist anymore. That was a bridge, if I'm not mistaken, for one of the waterways that doesn't exist anymore. That's no longer there, but it was a bridge. And I think that's, I think that's where the water would come up there. These are the things that I would, if I were to go back in time, that's what I want to see, things like that bridge, and go across that bridge and try to, put myself in today's shoes while I'm there. So this is a dude chopping a log. I mean, I guess they're literally doing that as part of what, maybe the Tom Sawyer's Island, what. I cannot believe I forgot the name of the place. It's been that long. Anyway, the fort whatever in Tom Sawyer's Island. Or it could be this. Yeah, it could be the entrance to Frontierland, because there's a fort-style entrance. That is Davy Crockett and Fess Parker from the Davy Crockett Show. It was a Disney thing. Very big at the time. Huge, huge. They sold so many Davy Crockett coonskin hats. As a matter of fact, I think they still sell them today. But it was all based on this guy's show. Davy Crockett, and that's Buddy Ebsen as Fess Parker. I forgot the guy's name that played Davy Crockett. But they're going to apparently hang out while they build Frontierland. Oh, give it the... All right, he's going to try. All right, Davy. I guess he could say that he helped build Disneyland now. Gonna get some dirt. This guy loves dirt like I love dirt. Look at that. There's a little gazebo type thing right here at the rivers that does not exist anymore. Look at how, oh my gosh. It's just nothing. There's so little, you know, trees and foliage or anything. All right, Adventureland. All right. Okay, that's the Jungle Cruise. It's a model for the Jungle Cruise. No trees. How many trees are not there that are there today, right? Backside of water. Oh my God. Schweitzer Falls. That's cool. I admire people who can build stuff like that. That fascinates me. By the way, if you're into that kind of thing too, check out Imagineering Disney on Twitter. Great follow. This guy's very talented. He does stuff like that. Imagineering Disney on Twitter. All right, so we're looking at, what, the construction of Jungle Cruise, of course. By the way, I still don't see any hedges. Where are those hedges? The Jungle Cruise story is pretty great too, the way they built it. It was all just sort of, hey, let's do this thing and figure it out. It was just a bunch of guys trying to figure it out. They weren't really like experts on anything in terms of building stuff. They were smart guys who figured things out. Oh, by the way, it should be noted, I'm going to pause it here. Let me see if I can't figure it out. Okay, so this I think is early on in the ride at Jungle Cruise. You can see these are two trees that they flipped upside down to create this sort of odd, it's kind of spooky effect of something coming out of the water. But basically it was two trees that they chopped off and then flipped over. But I'm only showing that to give you some perspective in terms of where we are with relation to the rest of Adventureland. That means we're very close to the entrance to Jungle Cruise, which would be right over here somewhere, I think. So that means this tree right here, I'm pointing at it, I'll give you an arrow, is the Dominguez tree. I don't want to get into the Dominguez tree story too much. If you haven't already heard it, we did a video on this 1,000 years ago. It's a really kind of amateurish video that we did back in the day, but it's still relevant. The Dominguez tree is, you know, it's one of the oldest things at Disneyland. In fact, it existed prior to Disneyland being built, and there's a whole story behind it. But that, I believe, is the Dominguez tree. Now, it's not there today. They moved it a little bit. It's now next to the Indiana Jones Fast Pass queue. Fantastic. I say that a lot. Fantastic. So this is a POV of a boat going through the river. I don't know how they did this. It's like, oh my God, it's so great. One of the original previses, right? You ever seen when they talk about pre-visualization in movies? This is kind of a previs. There's the track for the Jungle Cruise, for the boats. I don't know why we're stuck here. You know, I think that's Harper Goff. Look at that. That's pretty much how they still do it today, I think. Yeah, he built that model of Schweitzer Falls. That's what he's looking at, is the model, and comparing it to how they're building it, you know, in reality. It's an odd angle. We never get to see it. That's again, that was Schweitzer Falls there, but from the opposite side, looking back. That's the Cambodian shrine, built by Cambodian shriners. And again, this is very much how they still do it today. But this was I think this was kind of a new technology, a technique back then. And this machine right here, it bends the steel for the track. They drive it along, and they can contour, they can make it bend the way they want it, you know, to follow the track that they want to make. Fascinating. The ingenuity of man blows my mind on a continual basis. The ability to create like that. And that's the, yeah, coming home, back to civilization. Boy, where's the trees, huh? Where's the trees? You go to Jungle Cruise today, there's trees everywhere. Oh, here we go, soundstage where they're building the hippos and the giraffes, and, well, the long-necked cheetahs. Giant elephant there in the back. That's all in Hollywood, in Burbank, in the studios. So they had to ship them in on the back of a truck. Watch out for his ears. If they wiggle, you're in trouble. I just wish I could have been there. I just wish I could have been there. Here comes a rhino. That's cool. There we go, guys. Getting in there the old-fashioned way with just sweat. There's video of the guy being the model, I guess. I don't know if they call it. They made the cast, you know, the impression out of a. There's video of that being done. Not in this video, but somewhere else. I think in another video that I'm going to be taking a look at in another time. Cool. Cool. I hope this doesn't ruin the illusion for you. I love this stuff. It doesn't ruin it for me at all. I love seeing behind the scenes. That monkey, he ain't there no more. I've heard this story before. He was only up there for a minute because the weather, he couldn't sustain, you know, he couldn't last up there in the weather. It rained one time and it was like disintegrated. And that's them pouring in the first batch of water into the Jungle Cruise River. History. Historic water. Almost as historic as dirt, right? That water don't look deep enough, man. You need more of it. Oh, wow. He's probably trying to get it on the track. Look at that. Schweitzer Falls now with an actual waterfall on it. And that's the backside of Main Street right there. That's where they park the Jungle Cruise boats right here. Tropical Hideaway back then, I can't remember the name of it now. I don't know why I forgot it. And then Jolly Holiday, that's what's talking about the two-sided theming. Jolly Holiday on one side, Tropical Hideaway on the other. No trees, no landscaping. Wow. Back on the Jungle Cruise, there's Walt. And I don't know, like, is that Lily driving? Lillian? He looks so proud again. There's the guy from before. The guy who was putting the thing on the track. He's just, that's how, they just didn't care back then, man. They didn't have anywhere near, like, the precautions that we have today, which is why it was able to, why they could build it in a year, and why it only took 2 months to build the rest of Tomorrowland, because they just did it. They just did it. Smart guys putting things together for fun. That's what it feels like to me anyway. I don't know how true that is, but that's the way it feels to me. It's an image of that I like that I enjoy in my own imagination. I mean, come on, dude. I wonder if that guy appreciates the role he played in getting Disneyland built. There's Walt again. I miss him. Not that I ever knew him, but I wish he could have lived longer. I wish I could have seen what else he could have done. What would the world be like today if Walt had lived another 20 years? Because he would have worked right up until his death for sure. I mean, he did, right? And that's, okay, so the park is open. That's how it looked when it opened. No trees. Huh. Wow. And there's opening day. Look at the crowds. Look at this line right here developing out there going, oh my goodness gracious. Where does that go? Okay, so I guess that's it. That's the construction of Disneyland. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. And if you like the show and you want to support us, consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked, where we put up some exclusive content for Patreon. You can't find it on FreshBaked or on Royal Dorks. So hopefully you can check that out. And until next time, guys, be safe, be kind, and fresh baked.